Republican Governor Jan Brewer makes her counterintuitive political move to expand Medicaid.
This Medicaid restoration plan will bring $8 billion into our economy over the next 4 years. It will throw a lifeline to a safety net in rural hospitals struggling with the cost of caring for the uninsured.
Democrats are all for it, but will Brewer's fellow Republicans buy in?
I am fully behind her on this. When she made the announcement in her State of the Union speech, I was one of the people that actually stood up and applauded her. I was so surprised.
Well, I stand with my constituents in my district, and I believe the vast majority of Arizonans in rejecting Obamacare in this state. This will bankrupt the state of Arizona.
State capitol politics turned sideways. It's Arizona Week.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support. Once again, your moderator, Michael Chihar.
Governor Brewer has stepped into Arizona's political breach by proposing that the state accept federal Affordable Care Act money to expand Medicaid. She says it would provide health insurance for an additional 240,000 people and be an economic boost, especially in rural Arizona. But key fellow Republicans in the legislature say they're opposed. Tonight, we'll explore the test of wills that is taking shape. First, the governor's proposal as she presented it this week at the state capitol.
Arizona voters have consistently supported this program and have twice voted by wide margins to expand coverage for the working poor in our state. Today, I'm proud to announce that we have crafted a thoughtful, conservative legislation that honors the will of the Arizona voters. What's more, this Medicaid restoration plan will bring $8 billion into our economy over the next 4 years. It will throw a lifeline to a safety net in rural hospitals struggling with the cost of caring for the uninsured. And it will keep Arizona's tax dollars here at home, rather than allowing them to go to Washington to be spent on who knows what. Best of all, my plan comes at no cost to our state general fund.
Brewer has suspended her opposition to part of the Affordable Care Act to push Medicaid expansion in the state. She insists hers is a consistent conservative position, even tying health care for the poor to the pro-life stance that she says is her true character and that of other Republicans.
But there's something even more important at stake today: people. I'm talking about the tens of thousands of our fellow Arizonans who've lost jobs and their health insurance during the Great Recession. I'm talking about the thousands more who continue to work but simply don't earn enough to afford private insurance. If you're one of these Arizonans and you don't have children, you're currently locked out of our Access program. They walk a daily tightrope, knowing they are one car accident, one freak injury, or one serious illness away from disaster. When they absolutely do need care, the hospital emergency room is usually their only option. This is not just the most expensive option for taxpayers, it is the least effective way to treat a chronic condition like cancer or diabetes. So the patients get sicker and the rest of Arizona pays for it.
The Medicaid proposal would expand eligibility for the federal health plan to people whose household incomes are at 133% of the federal poverty level. That means, for example, that an individual with an income of $15,000 a year would be eligible, as would a family of 4 with total income of $31,000 a year.
I have always been proud to be a member of a pro-life party. With this legislation, we're talking about people's lives. We're talking about saving people's lives. I'm a pro-life governor. I refuse to stand by and allow this many people to needlessly suffer, especially when we have a solution. Thank you.
The state would get a windfall from expansion estimated at $1.6 billion a year. All costs would be borne by the federal government in the early years, going to 90% federal coverage after 3 years. Even then, Brewer's plan calls for the state's share, estimated at $250 million a year, to be covered by a fee on hospitals and not come from state taxpayers. Brewer has assembled a broad coalition of support for the expansion, and she was quick to show that off and to emphasize that Arizona voters have approved expanded health care for the poor more than once.
I am so honored today to be here, joined by this broad and diverse coalition representing more than 110 organizations across Arizona. Business leaders, doctors, nurses, county sheriffs, the Catholic diocese, university regents, mental health professionals, and more. What they all have in common is their desire to see the Arizona legislature join me in enacting this plan to restore Medicaid coverage, boost our economy, take pressure off our state budget, and provide cost-effective care to Arizonans who need it the most. And remember, Arizonans voted twice, demanded this. Twice the people of Arizona voted.
Legislative reaction was swift and decisive. Elected officials already were largely in two camps before the announcement, and it served to intensify their stands. What's your stand on the Medicaid expansion as proposed by Governor Jan Brewer?
I support her wholeheartedly. I think it's something that we need to do, especially with the rural hospitals. We have rurals that are about to go broke right now, and they've had uncompensated care for the last 3 to 4 years. And it's time we come back in and start with the 204 population, which is the childless adults first, and then we've got to go on, and it's going to bring a lot of money into Arizona. If you look at the health care for the people that are uncompensated care right now, which we're paying for anyways, and it's hurting small business to do that, but it's going to give some coverage to them, and then over the next few years, it's 300-some million in 14. It's 1.6 billion in 15, 1.7 billion in 16, and that's huge to the state. And just the math of it, bringing in new money into the state is enormous. So I support it. There's a lot of reasons that we need to do it. It's the right thing to do. I know people that were pushed off. They were vets that came back from Iraq, and they were pushed off access.
Well, I stand with my constituents in my district, and I believe the vast majority of Arizonans in rejecting Obamacare in this state. This will bankrupt the state of Arizona and create a lasso. It will pull a noose around the taxpayers and those who frankly need health care the most.
I am fully behind her on this. When she made the announcement in her State of the Union speech, I was one of the people that actually stood up and applauded her. I was so surprised and so thrilled that she's doing this. This is one of the main reasons why I got into office in the first place. The whole reason that I ran was because I was seeing the injustice and the fact that people are not getting their medical and mental health needs met. They're just not. And that's inexcusable. We have this system now that is offering us $10 to every $1 Arizona spends. We'd be crazy not to take advantage of that. Those are our tax dollars. We need to bring those tax dollars back to Arizona. If we don't, they're going to go to New Mexico. They're going to go to California. Those tax dollars will go to another state, and we will lose out on this. And we will have our vulnerable citizens, our most vulnerable people, not able to get the health care that they deserve.
It's the same as it's been since I was running for re-election, and that is I oppose it. I'm looking forward to reading the bill that she's planning on introducing and seeing what details are there and see where we go from there.
Could your reading of that bill change your mind?
Well, I doubt it because I don't think it's going to have anything new from what we've been hearing in speeches and in discussions. So.
And do you you bear a dual role? Not only do you have a vote as a senator, but you shepherd the Republican caucus in the Senate. What are you seeing going on there as far as support for or opposition to the Medicaid expansion?
Well, I think primarily until now, everybody's been wanting to see a bill so we could see what the language is, make decisions. I think that there are inherently a few that support it, and there's inherently some who don't support it. But I think most everybody wants to get a chance to read what's in the bill, and then we can ask even more prescient questions to see how it works.
I'm supportive, as long as there's no strings attached. I think it's important that it comes as a single issue, either in the budget or as a separate bill.
Now, what do you mean by strings? What would keep you from supporting it in the way of strings attached?
Well, just from having been down here at the Capitol, in order to get votes, sometimes the governor may have to offer certain people something for their vote. And if it's things that I wouldn't support or our caucus wouldn't support, she may lose votes. So she has to walk a tightrope here, and it's a challenging position to be in, trying to get this passed.
And your case for it being a viable option for Arizona?
Two reasons. I mean, first, it's economic development. You're talking about a huge influx of money, $2+ billion coming into the economy here in the state. That's tens of thousands of jobs. And then you're also talking about expanding coverage for 300,000 plus people across the state, people who need that coverage, who then, once they get that coverage, can get back to work and be more productive.
Your stand on the governor's Medicaid expansion plans?
Well, clearly the people have spoken. In the Arizona Constitution, they made it abundantly clear that they want freedom of choice for health care. And in fact, more people voted for freedom of choice for health care and against Obamacare than voted for Prop 204.
The governor cites two votes by the voters in Arizona to expand Medicaid, to expand access in the state. How do you respond to that?
And she's absolutely correct. But in addition to that, what she did not tell you is that that group of people sued people like me in the legislature who changed that. They lost in court. The Arizona trial court, the appellate court, and the Arizona Supreme Court refused to hear the case, which meant they affirmed the appellate court's decision, which said freedom of choice for health care. In addition to that, the appellate court of Arizona said that it's up to the legislature to determine where to spend the public's money, not the courts. So it's very clear that it's the absolute wheelhouse of the legislature to appropriate the monies of the state. And frankly, we don't have the money. Congressman Ryan has made it clear as of this last Sunday that we're not even going to fund it in the budget. So why in the world would a Republican governor be talking about a defunded Democrat health care plan? I don't get it. It's defunded. The courts have said we don't have to do it. The U.S. Supreme Court, moreover, has said it's optional. So for the governor to run into an option that's going to run us into debt and bankrupt this state and every state in the union that does it, given that Florida has already said no, Utah has said no, and I hope many more states say no.
As an emergency room physician, you said you've experienced some of the downside of there not being enough coverage for people who can't afford it otherwise. Do you have any specific experiences you could tell us about in that regard?
Oh, absolutely. I not only practiced, but I ran a large emergency department. So, we had lots of patients that came in, whether and you can use mental health patients as an example, because if they don't have long-term care, where they're on their meds and get some follow-up, they end up coming to the ER off their medications. A lot of times they're brought in by police officers, and we have to admit them then to get them back under control, get them on their meds. It's incredibly expensive, and then we have to find placement for them. And if we don't keep them on their regular medications, which is relatively inexpensive, we end up incurring these large costs. And they're all covered either by the hospital as uncompensated care and the physicians as uncompensated care.
So how do we provide health care for those who do need it?
Well, we're going to go the path to prosperity. Arizona, I fully expect to go the same way that the Florida legislature has done in bucking a governor who supports Obamacare. The legislature will stand strong for the taxpayer, and we will push for free market reforms, whereas if you want big government, go to California. If you want prosperity, come to Arizona. That's through jobs.
In specific terms, how does someone who does not now have health care and is not now covered by Access or Medicaid get it in Arizona through your path?
Our path says small groups, small businesses can group together and have better purchasing power for their own health care. We believe in tort reform to limit outrageous lawsuits, lowering the cost of health care. as well as health savings accounts so that people who unfortunately might lose their job are able to take their health care along with them. This free market path is a far better long-term solution.
Brewer's battle will be door-to-door combat in the halls of the House and the Senate. We asked legislators what they thought of the chances. Governor Brewer is really cranking up the pressure here. She's had a number of rallies, including one here this week on the Capitol lawn. Will that be resisted by Republicans?
It already has been. I believe most, if not every county's Republican Party has come out against the health care expansion. They're against Obamacare, and frankly, we're not buying what she's selling. She is selling empty promises from Washington. Those who are supporting Obamacare are supporting furthering budget deficits, putting Arizona on the same path of fiscal cliff that the country has as a whole. We look toward real solutions and long-term prosperity to solve our problems.
And do you think it has a good chance of passage in the Senate and in the House?
There are people that are saying that, but they don't have the whole story yet. And I think once they get the whole story, we'll win some of them over. I think we can get it passed. I know we can get it passed. The governor has a veto pen, and she can sit up there all summer if she wants until she gets what she wants. But the right thing would be to get all the facts, let everybody know the facts, and then move forward with it. And I think we can do it.
I wish I had the crystal ball. I have my fingers crossed, I have my eyes crossed, and my toes are crossed on this one. I really hope so. I don't think we can afford as a state to not pass it. It's critical, truly is critical.
You know, this is my third term down at the Capitol now. And when I first came down, you know, I'd been on a school board and come down here lobbying. But what I've learned is you can never predict what's going to happen down here at the Capitol. My hope is that we make a sensible decision. This is a good thing for our state if we do expand access to health care.
Handicap the results here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's still tough. I mean, you know, I give Governor Brewer credit for coming out early on in session, from day one actually, saying we need to do this. But she doesn't seem to have any support yet from her GOP caucus in either the Senate or the House. So I'd say it's still tenuous. It's probably, 50-50. It could go either way at this point.
Well, the people deserve a thing called Prop 108, which if the fees on the taxes on the people are going to be increased, the people of Arizona changed their constitution to say that they require a supermajority vote of the legislature. That's 40 and 20. The governor is trying to slip through a loophole and put this bed tax in place, probably without a supermajority vote. But once again, we still need to see the bill. It's still not in my hands yet.
She's calling it a fee, not a tax. Would that make the difference?
No. In fact, Prop 108 says any increase in revenue to the state, be it fee, tax, assessment, it really doesn't matter.
I can't really pretend to be clairvoyant on that. I mean, we're still early enough in the process on this specific bill, and I still think that I think there's time that you're going to see a lot of discussion, a lot of push and pull on this. I would be surprised if this bill comes out as it's been. It wasn't introduced, but it was presented today to the public. I would imagine that you're going to see some amendments that go on this thing, which might bring some on and push some off. So it's virtually impossible to predict and handicap that right now.
We've spoken to a few of your colleagues in the House, and they're dead set against this. How do you expect to get it through?
Well, I think that there are 90 members of the legislature. In the House specifically, we have 60. And so that's what we're working on right now, is meeting with different representatives. And as with any bill, there will be people that vote for it and there will be people that vote against it. And so as we introduce the language and go through a series of educational and informational hearings and meetings, I think that other people will also draw the same conclusion. I think at the end of the day, the governor has a great track record. When she puts an idea forward, we absolutely get it done. Will it be easy? No. But is it something that I think will get done at the end of the day? I believe so, and I hope so for the citizens of Arizona.
As we've noted, the governor caught many by surprise in calling for Medicaid expansion. What's behind that, and what's her motivation? To get a sense of it, I spoke with Fernanda Santos, Phoenix bureau chief of the New York Times. She has reported and written extensively about Brewer and state politics, including a piece on Medicaid just this week. Fernanda Santos, Phoenix bureau chief for the New York Times. Thanks for speaking with me.
My pleasure.
It's not politics as usual in Arizona right now, with Governor Brewer pushing for her Medicaid expansion. What's causing that shift?
Well, the interesting thing about Governor Brewer is that she's not a black or white politician. If you look at the years she spent in state government here, look back to 2009, early 2010, you might remember that she pushed very hard for the temporary sales tax increase here in Arizona as a way to offset some of the deep cuts they had to make on the budget. And that was a very unpopular measure with Republicans. She nonetheless kept going, took the issue to the voters. The voters approved the sales tax increase, and we have it in place until May of this year. And she is doing it again right now. She is pushing a measure, the expansion of Medicaid, which is very popular with Democrats, highly unpopular with Republicans, and she has gone all out. She's traveled the state, she's held events right outside of the Capitol, and she is determined to get this passed. So it's it's not a typical Republican reaction, but it's a Republican reaction based on the financial realities of the state, as she put it.
So the financial realities, are they the motivation for her?
Well, that's the main motivation, not only for her, but for other Republican governors who have taken the same position, one of them being the neighbor to the east, New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez, Governor Sandoval in Nevada did the same thing, other governors in different parts of the state. That's the main thing they mention here. But the interesting thing, if you look at a map of the nation, and you look at where Republican governors stand on Medicaid expansion, you will see that in the South, there is overwhelming opposition to the expansion, whereas in the Southwest, the Republican governors are all in favor of it. And one cannot overlook the fact that in the Southwest there has been a profound, there is a profound transformation occurring of the electorate here with the increase in the number of Latino voters who tend to be Democrat, or are actually overwhelmingly Democrats. And one cannot forget that if anyone has higher aspirations, political aspirations here, he or she cannot overlook that portion of the electorate, which has already proven to be decisive, especially in the presidential election, in Nevada more specifically, in helping elect President Obama.
Is Governor Brewer seeking legacy here, or does she have some higher motivation for trying to get this passed?
Well, people who have been following her very closely will say that one of her interests is to take the attention away from immigration, right? She has been known across the country as the governor who passed the first and one of the most restrictive immigration laws in the country. She has stood very steadfastly on her position about securing the borders, and she has not wavered from it at any moment. So that's what she's known for, remembered for, maybe not so much in Arizona, but certainly in other parts of the country. So there is a motivation to kind of be known for something other than that, which is not a very positive legacy if one is to look at nationally how people perceive her. But I also think that she is a pragmatic, and she's surrounded by very pragmatic people, and a lot of her decisions are made not on her own, but she makes them in conjunction with advisors who have taken a very pragmatic approach to a very sort of dollars and cents approach to the issue. It makes sense for the state financially. It is a 90% reimbursement from the federal government, at least in the beginning. She has built in a circuit breaker, as she calls it, which is that if the reimbursement goes below 80%, she will no longer cover childless adults. So she's sort of shielding herself from criticism from the Republicans, while at the same time building support for this argument that the state will save money if it expands Medicaid.
Now, you mentioned dollars and cents, and the Republican opposition to this has its own argument about dollars and cents, that this is adding to the federal deficit, that it can't be afforded overall. How is she going to overcome that? Is there enough momentum building to allow her to do that?
Well, she is determined to get this passed, and as her spokesman put to me, when she digs in her heels, she digs them in, and she will go forward. The legislature is an interesting body because, as you know well, it's even though they might use arguments financial arguments, for example, to justify their position against the expansion. It is a very political body, and and when it comes to the Republicans, there is a very strong Tea Party type of mentality among many of the Republicans here, who are very tied to the ideas of not expanding the deficit, not contributing to a bigger role of government in the lives of citizens, very philosophical, ideological positions against the healthcare overhaul that President Obama proposed and that is now a law in this country. So, whether or not she's going to be able to do it is still somewhat up in the air. I'm sure that her people are working hard, but when I talk to many people involved in this effort, they seem to think that it's going to be close, but that they're going to be able to get it through.
Democrats seem united in favor of it, and in fact, this seems to have given Democrats here in the legislature some energy after years and years of not lethargy, but of being almost voiceless because they don't have any power. Are they going to hold together on this?
It's an interesting question because I spoke to some leaders in the Democratic caucus, and they expressed a little concern about the freshman Democrats because the House Speaker, Andy Biggs, a Republican, has been...
Andy Tobin.
I'm sorry, Andy Tobin. Biggs is on the Senate side. Andy Tobin has been meeting with some of them, and obviously a speaker holds a lot of sway because he can decide which bills get through, which bills don't. And not that nobody said that he's been explicitly using his power to try to get these freshman Democrats to vote against the expansion. But, I think it's implied that if they're meeting with you and they're discussing how to get their bills through, that, and he is bringing up the Medicaid issue, that maybe there is something they can work out in between. But I think ultimately it is a defining moment for the Democrats in this state who, as you said, have been, virtually without any power for decades here. And it is an important issue for Democrats across the country. And they feel almost that it's their duty and obligation to help the governor in every way they can to get this passed, not stand in her way, meaning not making any of their members vote against the expansion.
Fernanda Santos, Phoenix Bureau Chief for the New York Times, thanks for speaking with me.
My pleasure. It was great being here.
There's more on Medicaid and Brewer's expansion plan on our website, azpm.org. That's our program for Friday, March 15th, 2013. Next week, we'll look at what officials are calling a dramatic shift in the State Transportation Department's highway priorities. For Arizona Week, I'm Michael Chihak.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support.